Yeah, let me go ahead and get this started. So I'm gonna have Kate do a proper introduction of herself in just a minute here, but just as a quick intro of Kate Sullivan, who's joined us as a guest. Kate is a producer, filmmaker, and creative director, and has done work within TV, theater, and music-driven film, and has produced with a lot of different networks, so Hulu, Disney, Universal, FX, Fox, MTV UK, and Paramount. Just to name a few, just kidding. Um, she's an Emmy nominated for World's Best, which is Disney Plus, part of Disney Plus, and then currently part of the Disney Entertainment Television Directing Program, and also has done some portfolio coaching for Artbound Initiative. Um, and just a quick introduction about myself. I'm the CEO of Artbound Initiative. We're an internship program for aspiring film and TV producers, designers, and content creators, and we've had over 1,000 participants go through our program. I see a few of them here. Um, and then a quick rundown of how today will go. We'll talk a little bit about Kate's career journey and some advice for all of you. We'll go into a brief introduction about who we are, just for 10 minutes in the middle, and then it'll be open Q&A, and I hope that will take most of the session because we're really here for you to ask all your questions and to get all the answers that you're hoping to look for. So let me go ahead and stop sharing screen now and move over to an introduction of Kate. Kate, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to see all your faces in all the different places. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah. Kate, would you mind just starting off giving us a little bit of a kind of deeper introduction about yourself, maybe an overview, a little bit of an overview of your career and who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Kate Sullivan. I'm a producer and director. I grew up in Massachusetts in Boston. I see some of you are from there. Yay. And then I went to college in North Carolina. Go Tar Heels for anyone who's in North Carolina. And I had two documentary filmmaker parents or journalistic parents. So I luckily had one parent that was obsessed with movies. And so I grew up falling in love with film, and I knew I was bound for Hollywood. So, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, which I really advise that not knowing is great. Maybe that's not what you want me to tell them, Ben, but I think
Oh, that's great.
being being open to new experiences is like part of the journey. So I really like to tell people to keep yourselves open. But I came right out to LA and I didn't have a job. I had a bunch of friends that I moved out here with. We all came from the same college. We all were poor. We all lived like seven people in two bedrooms, as you do after college. And it was great. And I was lucky enough to know somebody who knew somebody who worked at DreamWorks. And I was obsessed with Spielberg. He was like a big staple of my childhood. So I ended up landing a PA role for him at the studio DreamWorks. So I worked there for 9 months. I was in charge of feeding his fish, cleaning his golf cart, dropping off iPods and pads to his children. It was very luxurious, but I got a chance to make friends with the story department and meet the people that ran that. So I was constantly asking for them to let me read scripts and constantly sending my unsolicited feedback their way, which I think they saw some chutzpah, even if it was unwanted. From there, I met another director, this director named Mark Waters, who most notably directed Mean Girls, and he had gotten a deal to make TV at Paramount. And I interviewed with him and then was his assistant for 3 years. So I traveled with him when we shot. My first movie I ever made was called The Spiderwick Chronicles. We filmed in Montreal for 6 months. It was incredible. And then our production company was producing a movie called a little indie called 500 Days of Summer. So I came back to LA to work as the producer's assistant on that. So those were my two forays into filmmaking. From there, I was really interested in studios and sort of the buyers of film. And I went to go work for a woman named Debbie Liebling who ran Fox. And pretty soon into me working for her, she was poached to run all of Universal. So I was at two studios in one calendar year, and studios are very different in the way they run. So it was a wild year, but I learned a lot. And this is where my story takes a hard left. Which is I decided to start directing theater. And I wasn't a theater kid. I was an athlete, but I was a Rent the musical kid. I was a rock musical kid. And when we were making 500 Days of Summer, we shot it exclusively in downtown Los Angeles. There was a real artistic renaissance happening that felt very much like the 90s in New York City. And I had stumbled upon an abandoned warehouse in downtown LA. And so I decided to direct the first thing I've ever directed, which is a 3 hour rock opera, which was crazy. But I did it. And I knew I worked at a film studio by day. And then I went to go direct this musical by night. And I think the thing that I made a lot of mistakes. I learned a lot, but I think the thing I did right was I knew where I was, and that was Los Angeles. So I marketed the musical like a movie, because that's what I had learned to do in my past 5 years of working in Hollywood. And so I took my cast, I directed a trailer on the subway, and our whole run was sold out within minutes. And my boss, who came to see the show at Universal, was like, "How did you do this while working for me?" And I think I was like, I'm young and crazy. But it was really exciting. And a lot of the people in my life were like, "You're a director." So I ended up working in theater for about 5 years. I directed another show called Spring Awakening that had just finished its Broadway run in Los Angeles, and I sort of did the same thing. I had kids from Glee and Pretty Little Liars when those shows were popular. In the show, I directed a trailer, and we had a very successful run. I then made the decision to go and move to New York City because everyone was like, if you want to direct, you need to move to New York theater, you need to move to New York. So I had my 3 year New York chapter where I had 7 jobs and was running around like a crazy person trying to meet people and study theater. It was kind of like grad school, but without the school. But I'm really glad I did it because I met a really important person in my life named Tommy Kail, and he was directing Hamilton. He was in the middle of developing it and directing it. He had directed a musical called In the Heights before, and we became very good friends. And he was interested in feature stuff, and I was interested in theater. So we had like a monthly lunch. Um, and he, after Hamilton opened, he was asked to direct one of those big movie musicals on TV called Grease Live. And he asked if I wanted to associate direct the movie, the live movie. And I said yes. So I moved back to LA and I worked on that with him for 3 months. And it was incredible because it was putting together films, which I love, and musicals, which I was directing into sort of one medium. And I had at this point been working for a lot of directors, and I really didn't see myself. I was confused over sort of if directing was for me because those directors weren't, in my opinion, operating in a good headspace. And so I was constantly like, maybe I'm not a director if I'm not like, I don't really want to yell at people all day. But working with Tommy for the first time was so incredible because for the first time I saw a director that worked like I did, which was with directness and kindness. Um, and a lot of work ethic. So that kind of brings me to like the third of my many chapters as after the success, Grease was very popular, Hamilton was very popular. Disney offered Tommy a development deal to make television, and he hired me to run his company. So I produced television with him for seven and film for 7 years, and made produced my learned. I had never worked in TV before. I really just showed up and learned as I went, which is basically how I think anyone makes it through entertainment. And I produced my first television show as a show called Fosse Verdon, which is on FX. The next show I produced was on Hulu. It's called Up Here. It's a romantic comedy musical. And then the last show that I produced is a show called We Were the Lucky Ones, which is a World War II story on Hulu. And during this time, I also produced a feature called World's Best on Disney Plus, which is a kids hip hop musical, and we were nominated for an Emmy for that, which was really exciting. And so that was a really incredible time. I was traveling the world. I was working in New York. I was working in Canada. We were the lucky ones in Romania. So I was getting to know completely different crews, and every show that I worked on, I would meet new people and learn how to be a better producer. My story ends, and then I'll stop talking, with me realizing that I just wanted to be a director. So that was interesting. And I really was excited to just do the creative part, but my producer brain is never far away. I cannot take it off, unfortunately. So I directed a short film before I left, just to like kind of triple check that I was leaving this great career behind to do something that I really liked. And making the film was probably three of the best days of my life. And I felt so much like myself and so like I had arrived at the place I was supposed to through many different venues. We ended up premiering the film at Tribeca. My old boss, Tommy, came on to produce it. It was a really big, joyful time for me to pivot as a filmmaker. Since that was 2 years ago. So since then, I was in the Disney Directors Program as a director. And then I just completed the Ryan Murphy Directors Program. And then I just booked my first episode of television. So I will be going to direct an episode of a Netflix show called Nobody Wants Us, and I start in 3 days. So this is the last fun thing I get to do before I'm locked away for a month of directing TV. But I love producing. I will always do it. But directing is really my future. So if there's any directors and writers on here, I welcome all the questions. I also just finished directing a new short film that I'm really excited about. That is very was very ambitious, and we just shot it on an island in off the coast of Washington. So I just got back from doing that too. So it's been a busy 2026, and I still get asked to produce all the time, but I just send my friends instead of me. So that's where we are.
It's such an incredible story. I mean, you've accomplished so much in your career already, you know. You said my story ends here, and I was like, no, it doesn't.
You're like, I've
I
read your
know that's not
bio.
what you meant. I know that's not what you meant, you know, but I was like, it's gonna keep going really far from here, of course. You've done some incredible projects, worked with a lot of amazing people. Probably even a tenth of what you've done is what a lot of people on this call would aspire to do during their career, you know. So tell me a little bit about looking back, what do you think actually helped you to build those bridges and to build those relationships? Because what I hear from what when you are talking about your career and when you talked about all the different, you know, places that you worked is that it's mostly through connections. You didn't, you know, you didn't go and apply for each of these positions. You built relationships, and those relationships transformed your career into other opportunities through trust and by following also other people's growth. So yes, maybe the answer to that is connections, but how did you actually successfully build those connections, and what were the things that allowed those connections to develop into better opportunities instead of just a, you know, a meet and greet and then okay, this is somebody that's, you know, in my phone book now. Yeah.
Great question. This is a relationship business, and it's truly all that matters. I mean, a lot of things matter. Being a good person matters. Working hard matters. But there's nothing you can apply to a lot of things, but those aren't going to get you jobs. What's going to get you jobs are your relationships. And I have been so interested in supporting. I had so many mentors, but they're mentors that I asked for. Like, and I had to keep in touch with people and follow up with people and be like a very gentle, persistent nagger. People are really busy. And I think that when I would, like, this is a really good example, I think. In the Disney Directors Program, we have a speaker a week that will come speak to us and say, this is what I've done as a director in television. Here's my story, kind of like what I'm doing to you guys. And at the end of it, if I really felt like that person and I were similar, or I could learn from that person, I would send them an email and I would say, thank you so much for coming to talk to us. I learned so much from you. I would love to take you for a coffee when you have some time. I'm directing as well and starting off, and I just feel like I could really learn something from you, and I would love to treat you to a beverage. And 100% of the people said yes that I asked them this way. And I think it's because I complimented their work and I was genuine. And also, like, everyone wants to be a mentor, everyone wants to give back, or most people do. You have to make it very easy for them to say yes. Like, I just am coming from a lunch where I asked to take one of my mentors out for lunch before I go to direct an episode of TV because I have a couple things I'm thinking about and I wanted to run them by her. So I reached out to her and said, can I grab you? I'd love to treat you to lunch to pick your brain. And she said yes right away. And we had a great time. So I do think it's about keeping in touch with people. identifying people where you could learn from, and really saying yes to everything. And that some of my, I met the woman I just met with, my mentor I just met with, because I had a random meeting. The meeting wasn't great actually, but at the end of the meeting, the person was like, "Where did you go to school?" And I was like, "Oh, I went to UNC." And she was like, "Oh my God, you have to meet my friend. She's a director who went to UNC." She immediately paired us up. I went to go have coffee with her. Turns out she's a producing director for a huge ABC show. She asked me to shadow her, and that was all because I just said yes. And now she's a mentor to me, and it will be in my life forever if I don't let her go. So I think it's about really thinking that every experience, you never know where something's going to lead you. And obviously, don't put yourself in any harm's way. But the things I've said yes to have really pushed me to unexpected, beautiful places. So I urge you guys to keep a list of everyone I meet and some things about them and their email address. And I check in on them once in a while. If I hear about something that they're making, I send them a congratulations note. All of this is genuine. I don't do this to people who I don't like, but everybody likes a good job and everyone likes to be checked in with. And the truth is no one's sitting around thinking about you. So you have to remind them gently that you're around, and working and interested in them and grateful. And I think you'll find that people will really rise to the occasion to meet you. The other thing I was going to say is everyone likes, like, I have offered my time to learn. So a lot of the times I'll say, "Hi, I really want to learn more about how to do a stunt, and I don't really know how to do that. Could I come assist you for 2 days on your short film? You don't have to pay me so I can learn." And you know who says yes to that? Smart people, because they would love free labor. So I think even if you're learning a new skill or don't know how to do something, I think offering your time, and support goes a long way with people. And I guess my final piece of advice in this section is don't be afraid. Like, the worst that could happen is people don't get back to you. So I just like truly have no fear. I'm like, okay, like what's the worst that could happen? And so I think you just have to be persistent and gentle and kind and direct, and people will support you.
For those of you who are in our program, you know that Kate is following our advice to a T. I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, you talked about keeping a list and checking in with people and having, normal catch-ups with them, and then also starting off by asking about them and how they're doing and how you can support them. And those are all really easy ways to build friends in the industry. And when I say friends, I mean like influential friends and mentors and people that can support you, right? Um, and I think one thing that I also hear from you, Kate, is that you're not going to those people and then saying, okay, I'm interested in that project, but what does it do for me? It's not about you. It's yes, and then let me see how this benefits later, right? Because you don't know how it's going to benefit you. It could build a connection, like you said, that ends up to be super fruitful, or it could build an experience that leads into something else that you realize all of a sudden, oh, well, I really like this aspect of the industry. So I love hearing exactly how you did that because I think that these are really accessible methods to everybody. It's, knowing people in the industry isn't about just like having a group of people who know you and you're super tight and that, you're just born with. It doesn't work like that, right? So you have to build those relationships, and building those relationships is not as hard as it seems. I did have a follow-up question for you, Kate. You mentioned, during that Disney Directors Program, you would reach out to people that you felt that you wanted to know more from and ask them, if you could have a coffee and connect with them. And you said 100% of them said yes. What percentage of people do you think in that room were doing the same thing?
Oh, it's a really good question. Interestingly, I got feedback like there were a bunch of us in the Disney Directors Program, and most, I don't think anyone else did that. I think it was just me.
Right? So that,
Yeah,
yeah, so that's my
yeah,
point, right? Is nobody
yeah.
does it. And
Right.
and
Totally. And you should. Like,
yeah.
I just had a welcome to the Directors Guild meeting over the weekend, and I had three incredible directors spend the day teaching a lot of new people who are directing television spent the day with us. And I emailed them all to say thank you because they gave us their time for free to teach us how to do this thing, and that's wonderful. And we should be grateful. And all of them responded, and they were all like, "Thank you so much for getting back to me." So I do feel like I do feel like expressing gratitude and asking for help, but in a very easy way, is like a great way to get somebody to support you. And I also think every single thing I've ever worked on, I usually walk away with one new friend, at least, and one person that I can be like, "Oh, you want to go film the short film together next weekend? Like, you and I know we can work together. We've already done it. Let's go do something else." So I think it's fun to think about collecting kind of your team as you do all these different things. And that's so fun to me, which is to sort of be social, but through work, and then realize who you work well together with, and then keep on working with them. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. The funny, because you mentioned that nobody was doing that. I mean, that's kind of the answer I was expecting because nobody does
Yeah,
do those things. Um, I hear a lot, and I know that the job market is not easy right now in general. I'm not speaking to any specific major or any specific industry, but I know that things are a little bit shaky right now. There's a lot of things happening in the world. There's a lot of changes happening in technology. I know it's not easy to be a student right now. It's not easy to graduate, right? And into this time. Now, I mean, I take that with a grain of salt because every 10 years there's something every 10 years, right? Like for me, it
of
was
course.
the Great Recession, and then before that it was the dot-com, burst, and before that it was something else. So every 10 years there's something. But most people are saying that it's difficult while, hitting apply on LinkedIn. It doesn't actually take a lot to stand out as somebody who is above the pack, and it just takes doing the things that Kate is talking about, reaching out, sending a thank you email, asking for a coffee, building the connection, and then keeping in touch, right? And it is not going to bear fruit immediately, but maybe a year down the line, maybe 2 years down the line, it has something for you, whether that's a relationship, an opportunity, or a mentor. Yeah. Can you tell us
Much
a little?
more well succinctly said, Ben. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience working on an Emmy-nominated project and how that shaped your perspective or how that shaped your feeling of I don't know if it made you kind of reach a point where you're like, okay, this is a point of success for me. Did you, pat yourself on the back at that point, or did you just feel like, okay, what's next? What's next in my view? Yeah.
Yeah, I was nominated for an Emmy for Fosse Verdon, which was my first show I produced, and then for a movie called World's Best. That was a movie that was a streaming movie. Um, Both were very different. I mean, with the first one, I got to go to the Emmys, which was pretty fun and intimidating and fun. And we lost, to be clear. And nobody and sorry, for World's Best, we also lost, and we lost early. We were like the first one up, and then we had to sit through the whole 3 hours having lost. But to get the honor is so great and wonderful. And also it just made me want to keep going. I think for me, very specifically, I it made me feel very eager to direct, because to be nominated as a producer felt good, but I was actually missing a little bit of something for me, because I think for me, especially as a director, you're creating the look of a show or a movie, and you're doing more creative work than necessarily producers do creative work, but in different ways. So it was a complicated time, because while it was very exciting that I was doing well in my profession, I also felt a little emptiness, to be honest. And I was like, what's that about? Like, this is kind of like, I mean, to win obviously is kind of the peak, but to be nominated is pretty exceptional. And I felt it actually really pushed me to change my future and what I wanted to do and be a director and really make that jump, because I wanted to feel like me. And I love producing. I'm quite good at it. I don't feel like me when I'm doing it. I feel like me when I'm directing, or the me that I am now. So in a weird way, the success of it made me leave it, which I know is like bizarre. Um, but I had to follow that feeling. and be honest about it, honestly.
Yeah, no, it actually makes sense. It sounds to me like you got the validation in some ways to be like, okay, I I'm good at this and now I can do
Yes.
the thing that I want to do, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And hopefully producing is going to make me a better director, which I think it does. So,
Yeah, I can imagine that that would be the case. When you meet interns or early career creatives, what are some things that immediately stand out in a good way, and what are some common mistakes that you see?
sure. I think things that stand out are good listening skills. Um, People who want to listen more than talk. I think when you're starting out, like, be a great listener. And doesn't mean you can't have dialogue, of course. Everyone wants to know about you, but you're here to learn. So I think about that. I think sometimes, like when we talked about the reach out, like there's no need to reach out with no news. I think the ways to reach out are, I heard that your show got greenlit. Congratulations. Um, Hi, I did this. I made this short film. It got into this festival. I just wanted to share this fun news with you and send a link. Or I got a new job and I just am really excited about it. Or hi, I'm job hunting. I really adored our meeting. I just wanted to give you my new resume in case something comes up. I'm looking for a PA job somewhere. If you hear of anything, I would be so grateful. So purposeful reach out is good. I sometimes get emails from people being like, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, I don't have I don't this is yes, I don't need a check-in on my personal stuff. I more need if I'm helping you, let me know how I can help you." So being really direct and short a short email about what you're up to is really great. Um, and I would also say the biggest thing I see, and I take a lot of younger people out for coffee is people don't know what they want to do. And I kind of am contradicting myself because I said you should not know what you want to do and you should, but there's some guardrails here, which means it's really hard to help somebody if they're not giving you a couple pieces of directive. So when I meet with someone and they're like, "Oh, I'll take any job," like that's not helpful. What's helpful is, "Hi, Kate. I really love Greta Gerwig, and I love J.J. Abrams, and I love TV shows that are procedurals, or I love half an hour comedies." That lets me know what your taste is and where to place you or where to think about. I always give the advice when I meet people is like, go make a list of all the shows you love, all the movies you love, and track them. And if you have three shows on there that are made by the same producer, I always say to people, I don't know a lot of people, I don't know everyone, but I know a lot of people. So if you send me a list that say, here are five producers that I would love to work for, I might know two of them and can shoot them over a resume and say, hey, this person's great. If you guys have any openings, hire them. I've gotten people a lot of jobs that way, but you have to do that work first. So be specific in what you like. It doesn't matter if you don't know what you want to do yet, but I think start to craft what your taste is and what attracts you to this business because that will be really helpful in helping you. I make it very easy for anybody to help me, which is like, oh, you want the last thing I think is like, oh, like, can someone call for a reference? I get that a lot. And I'm like, or can you write me a reference for something? I'm like, you write the reference, you send me the rough draft, and then I will edit it from there. But you just have to be mindful of people's time, um, and that you're making it very easy for them to say yes. So do a lot of work before you go into these meetings. To help them help you, honestly, because people don't have time to sit around all day and like drag out of you what you want to do.
Yeah. Um, a lot of good advice in there, and a few things I want to pull on before we go to a quick little intermission to talk about our Brown Initiative. But you said that one of the most important skills is listening, and can you elaborate that on that a little bit? I know that sounds, you know, simple, right? Like just listen to within meetings and take notes about and things like that. But can you go a little bit deeper? What does that mean for you if somebody's a good listener? What are the types of things that they do around you that indicate that, or how does that translate in the way in which they work?
Absolutely. This was a note I had to give myself because I get really easily excitable and then want to share. And I realized that's annoying. So I think that not at all times, but so I think it's really about if you're going to someone to meet them for advice, come prepared with questions and listen to the answers and really hear the answers. And I know we all want to share so deeply who we are. Um, but I think that that's what you can do with your friends. I think if you're looking for things you don't know and to learn things, like show up to like one of the best generals I ever had with a mentor of a mentee of mine was she came to our coffee. She asked me ahead of time what I wanted to drink. She had my coffee waiting. She said, "Congratulations on this thing that I heard you did. I'm so excited to hear about it. And I had some questions that I just wanted to run by you. I'm trying to navigate this business." And the thing is people are here to help you and they want to know you, but they also want to feel seen too. And so I think it's just about making people feel seen and heard and comfortable so then they can listen to you and make you feel comfortable as well. So I think it's really just about preparation and think about everyone's busy. So like you really want to make this a pleasant experience for them. I had consequently a coffee with a friend of a friend's son or something recently, and he had not done any research on me. He did not have a plan. I think I bought him a drink. It was just like a mess. And like, it's okay. I'm so happy to buy people drinks. But like, if you are asking someone for their time, that's a favor. And you need to show up and act grateful from the jump. And that means having a good listening ear and being thoughtful about their time. So don't interrupt and under like think that you're going to get an hour and that's it. That's how long typical meetings are. And then say at the end of the meeting, if they're rushing out, like, I had a couple other questions. Could I send you an email? Or may I get your contact information so we can keep in touch? You probably already have it if you're meeting them, but just kind of pay attention to what's going on with the other person and take social cues so you can leave on a good note. And I ask about 2 minutes in. When you take a meeting with me, I'm like, okay, enough about me. You tell me everything tell me all about you. I want to know everything and I want to know how I can help. But I think I notice I do that faster when people show up and are very grateful for my time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and to elaborate on that a little bit, is that, for everybody here, is that when somebody's meeting you for the first time, they don't have that much to go off of, right? Like they don't know, like you can tell them a bunch of things, but the way in which you behave, the way in which you act is really what they're looking for. Because if they're going to go and refer you to a friend or to another producer or director that they know, it's really important that they uphold their reputation and they don't just refer somebody who's not going to show up to work or who's not going to, put in the work, right? So there's not that much to go off of. And so those little things, it's not because it's the most important thing, but it's because they signal to the other person how you're going to act later on. So if you show up early, if you buy the coffee, if you have some notes prepared, if you're actively listening instead of just waiting for your next question, all of those things become signals where they start to trust you very quickly. Because for those who have worked in the industry for a while, you can tell, okay, there's a group of people who are not really prepared or who are not really professional ready, and that can change over time. And then there's a group of people who are really eager and professionally ready. And that is what tells the difference oftentimes, not always, but you can very quickly pick up on those different things. So I think that's some great advice, Kate, in terms of how to show up and making sure that you're ready, to talk about yourself. I also like the piece of advice that you had about coming with some specific questions. I do think that it's really important to show up ready to know what you're asking for and not just empty-handed, because it's really hard to grab onto how they're going to help you if you come totally empty-handed. And you don't have to make your life's decisions in that moment. As Kate explained about her own career, it moved from film to theater to TV, from, producing to directing, right? You don't need to come and say, this is exactly the path that I want. You need to know what you want right now, what you're looking for right now so that people can help you and have an idea of your overall career goal, right? Um, for those of you who have worked in hospitality, because I used to work in hospitality, like you only have so many touch points with a person coming in, or in retail also, right? Like you only have so many touch points. Like somebody who comes to a restaurant that you're working in, you may only have 3 or 4 touch points with them throughout the entire evening. And even if you think that you're doing all these things in the background that should give them a good experience, the only place that they have to judge you off of is the 3 or 4 times that you interact with them, right? So the same goes for when you're meeting somebody. You may say like, "Oh, I know all my potential and I know all the things that I can do," but they don't know that. So you have to bring it and deliver in that moment that meet with that potential mentor. I'm going to switch over briefly, and Kate, I'll give you a moment for a water break there. I'm going to switch over briefly to talk about our Bound Initiative, and then we'll get to your questions. For all of you who may have some questions, please go ahead and them into the chat. I will go through in order. So if you have questions, go ahead and put them in, and we'll get through as many as we can. And I see already some are coming up. And in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll go back to sharing my screen, and I'm going to talk just for 5 minutes or so about our program and what we do. So Outbound Initiative is a global career accelerator for creatives. We've been around for about 10 years, and our goal is really to help university students and recent graduates like yourself to bridge what you learn in university and then how to get your foot in the door in your career. I think you're learning so many key long-term skills for yourself that are really important for the duration of your career. But oftentimes when you're in university or you exit university, you may not have a lot of clarity on how do I actually get in that door in the first place. And that's what we're here for. Um, we are offering internships basically, and then a lot of preparation components around the internship. So you're going to go through a whole career transformation when you come through our program. There's a bunch of different destinations that you can do internships in through our program. So lots in the United States, New York, Chicago, LA, Miami, and Austin. And then we've also got London and Berlin, Melbourne and Sydney in Australia, and then virtual options for those of you that are not in these cities and maybe can't travel. And we do actually have a lot of virtual options for TV and film production and post-production. So if that's something that you're interested in. In terms of internship types that we have, there's 5 main categories, and I'll go through them. So advertising communications, if you're thinking of, if you're coming from a business background, marketing, advertising, or you want to get into content production or project management, all of these are really good skill sets, even if you're thinking of going to production and you want to work, within PR or communications, or you want to, work in project management. All of these are great skill sets for you to bring forward. So these are fantastic options. Design, I imagine we don't have a ton of designers here based on the subject matter of the call, but if you are a designer, we have opportunities in graphic design, branding, content creation, motion design, etc. Fashion as well within the business side. Entertainment media, this is probably where most of you sit. Production, both TV, film, theater, content, talent management, script development, post-production, photography, so many opportunities within entertainment media and a lot of chances to move forward with us there. And then fine arts, so if you want to work for an artist or a gallery or an institution. Now, there's a few program inclusions, and we are a program that you pay for outside of your university. So I just want to be upfront about that because you should know what are the things that I get out of this program if I choose to move forward. There are 4 main things. So you have access to our ABI Academy. You have 100% guaranteed internship placement, meaning that if you don't receive an internship from us on time and within your strategy, you receive a full program refund. You have access to our creative network and then dedicated support too. So ABI Academy, this is something that happens before the internship, and this is really about transforming your profile. Building the skill sets that you need to be recruited, and then building the skill sets that you need to be successful during the internship as well. We talk about a lot of the things that we just went through here on this call. We first of all work on your profile, like your resume, your portfolio, or your reel. your interview skill sets, and also your recruitment, preparation, knowing how to handle recruiter emails and responses and things of that sort. But then we talk about all those soft skills that we're talking about here, how to build a network, how to build relationships, how to make sure that you're successful on the job. This is a combination of live sessions that you're going to do online with coaches, and then also some content for you to watch, but it's all remote. So you don't need to be, in any physical location to complete this. A few of our industry experts and advisors, as you can see, Kate is on there, helping us with portfolio reviews as well, or real reviews. We also have Justin from Warner Brothers, Jen from MTV and Paramount, Kevin from Omnicom, if you're into advertising or creative side, Vanessa with Aquent, and then Jazz, who's the director of global social media marketing at Shutterstock. So these are just a few of our industry experts and advisors, but these are some of the people that you'll work with in the program, to gain advice from and also to receive support and feedback. Number two, as I mentioned, guaranteed internship placement. This is 100% guaranteed, meaning that if you don't receive it, as I mentioned, there's a full program refund. So internships can be between 3 to 6 months in duration. It could be part-time or full-time. They could be for credit or for experience. One thing to note is that there's still a lot of unpaid internships in the industry, and we're a really supportive program, but we are still a small program. We have about 250 to 300 participants that come through per year. So we can't change the whole industry. We can't guarantee a paid internship for that reason, but you should budget for either a paid or unpaid experience, and then consider this as a continuation of your education for 3 months for you to build some experience and connections. And then we have a lot of partner companies around the world that list constantly changes, but most importantly is that you'll find something within the types of internships that you're seeking. A few of our partner companies, I'm not going to kind of go through it in detail, but just flashing through some of the production or post-production companies that we work with and some of the different destinations. So things for you to, potentially look at and just see for inspiration. But as I mentioned, we work with a lot of different companies around the world, so this is just a small list. If you're going internationally, we handle travel support. That includes visa processing, insurance, housing. Those are all separate fees from our program, just to note, but we help support with the processing of it. So managing your visa process and ensuring that you can get to your destination on time and also within the requirements. And then when you land in city, we have in-city orientation and advisors there who are there to support you. And then throughout the program, you have support from our team, all the way from, going through the program, getting support on your profile, getting placed into an internship and making sure that you're successful there, and then on-site support as well. And then last but not least, you have access to our creative community. So building a network we've talked about connections here, right? So building a network is really important. We have a lot of people who've been through the program many years ago and have moved up within their careers. So this is a great place for you to make connections, build relationships through our app and also through our in-city events that we do, and just start that network that is going to branch out into your career. You don't need a ton of connections. You don't need 1,000 connections, but it is a great place for you to say, hey, you went through ABI, I'm going through ABI, let's connect, let's grab a coffee. I'm curious to learn a little bit more. And some of our alumni have gone on to work for some amazing places, just to show you, the types of people that you could potentially connect with within that app. I did mention we have a tuition, and I'll just share it here. So if you're doing something domestically or virtually, it's $22.50. If you're going internationally, it's $32.50, and that includes all of those components. And we have grants as well. So if you're coming from a financial needs-based background, we have grants that are up to the full program fee for our domestic and virtual program, and you can check that out on our page. And then application process, just go to our homepage. You can fill out a short form on our front page that has eligibility, or you can click to apply. We have rolling applications based on when you are looking to apply for. But if you're graduating right now, or if you're graduated and you want to do something in the fall, or if you're in Australia and you want to do something in your summer, then your upcoming application deadline would be April 10th. And so this takes about 30 minutes to apply, and there's no cost to apply. So you can do that on our website. And I'll share a link for that later in the chat. And then, of course, we have more events coming up. So if you found this through our events page, please register for the one that we have tomorrow, which is how to develop a portfolio. And while this is geared towards, content creators and branders and, graphic designers. I think it's very relevant also for those of you who have a reel or have a portfolio for your filmmaking or other types of production work. Yeah. So I'm going to stop sharing screen now, and I will share a link in the chat as well towards the end of how to apply for our program. I'll just go ahead and actually drop that in now. Excuse me one moment. Obviously, if you found us, you probably already have a bit of information, but I'm just going to share that there as well in case you want to check it out later. Great. So let's get back to all. I'm seeing a lot of. I'm scrolling up because I'm seeing a lot of good questions here. So let's start off with Jasmine. So Jasmine said, "I hope to be a director or editor and also enjoy producing. Do you have any advice on opening doors, getting into the industry? Um, for example, would it be smaller unpaid jobs or internships to meet people? I've recently graduated my degree in film, thinking what's next. Also in Australia, very far away from Hollywood, unfortunately." Uh, so, Kate, I leave that over to you. Any advice for Jasmine?
Yeah. Are you going in order? I'm just trying to look. I'm a
I am
better
going in
reader than.
order. I'm
Okay.
right up at the top, right
Okay,
under.
perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Hi Jasmine. Very exciting director, editor, and also enjoy producing. Amazing. Um, so I feel like there's a lot of things that film in Australia, right? Is there a healthy film there? I don't know too much about it. I've never filmed there, but um, I would suggest all of those are great fields. I would suggest, and I think this might answer a lot of these questions, is as much as you guys can be making on your own via short films or short form content, that's going to allow you to figure out what part you like. So, like, I've shot directed something before. I also was the producer and I also was the editor. And I realized very quickly, like, oh, I am not an editor. I do not like doing this. I do not have the right skills for it. It takes a very special person. And I learned very quickly that I didn't want to do something. And I actually think that's equally as valuable as figuring out what you do want to do. So, Jasmine, I think it would be great. Like, there is an Australian film, like center. And I think you could reach out to them. And a lot of the times they list a lot of PA jobs or jobs that you can apply for. So I might do a little bit of research of that website and see if there's anything when you're not in school that you can be during the summers or in the weekends that you can be helping out with. I also think if you know anybody in Australia that works in film, like if your friend's mom is a director, like see if you can take the mom to coffee. So I think it's about like in every state and every country, they're making things. I think it's just about asking around and trying to figure out where the hub of information is and then applying and apply to things that you don't think you know how to do because so much of this stuff is I've never taken a job I've been qualified for 100%. I've taken jobs that I'm like almost qualified for and then the only I got to go do them. So don't be afraid is also what I like to say too. Hopefully that answers some of it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kate. I appreciate that. That was a great answer. I'm going to move to Austin. Austin, it says, as someone who's looking to become a writer in the industry, what would you suggest as an entry pathway? And thanks, Austin, for joining. Austin's in our program right now. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, any advice for, and maybe this is the same advice, but maybe specifically to writing, any additional advice there, Kate?
Hi Austin. Just keep writing. Write. Submit your write, and then when you have something that you like and you think is good, try to make it, grab some friends and make it. Apply to programs for writers. There's tons of stuff out there for retreats for writers, get to know other writers, get involved in writing groups to get better and learn how to give feedback and take feedback. If there are mentors available to you that are other writers, offer to, read scripts or take notes for them. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to support other writers and learn from them at the same time. Um, yeah.
Fantastic. And I hear both from both answers to both Austin and Jasmine, you mentioned creating a lot, right? And I think this goes back to that idea of kind of signaling to other people your level of passion or your level of interest. if you're submitting yourself to potential jobs and they say, okay, great, let me look at your portfolio and you've got like two items in there, they're going to kind of question, well, how passionate are you about this industry if you're not, taking the time while you're applying for things to be creating, right? Then what's going to happen
Yeah.
when you're on the job is going to be the same thing. So if you're creating a lot of things and you're refining that and then you're putting that on your portfolio or on your reel, right? Then you have a lot to show for it, and you can say, "Look, I haven't had a job yet, but here's all the things I've created on my own, whether or not they went to production. I've written all these different scripts, and I have a lot of ideas." Um, Lindsay said, "I know the path to the entertainment industry isn't linear. Thank you for validating that. But if you could give yourself any advice at the beginning of your career, what would it be?"
Lindsay, what a question. Hi, Lindsay. It's really a good question. I don't know the answer. I don't I think a piece of advice that I would give myself is sometimes I think when you're making stuff or when the stakes feel really high, um, and it's harder, especially when you're making television and film, to sort of scrap what you've done when it's not working and walk away and restart it. I think sometimes I am so passionate about the people that I work with and work for and work next to that when even when something's not working, I think in especially in my beginning days of producing, I was like, we can fix this, and sometimes you can't fix it. Sometimes, unfortunately, you have to move to a different person. And that's just like an overall life thing. Sometimes you can't fix people, but I think sometimes like knowing when the effort is no longer worth it is important. And unfortunately, I don't think it's something you can know right away. You got to like make some mistakes like me. But just being aware for that, I think is helpful.
I like that advice. That was not what I expected to hear, and it's a great piece of advice. Um, Abel, one of our program alum, thanks for joining us. From the directors you've worked with, have they always aspired to be directors, or like you, do they come from other departments such as producing? Additionally, do you find that certain roles and departments have more transferable skill sets for direction than others? I'm an aspiring director and want to know what possible pathways I can take as I enter the industry.
Yeah, great question. Hi, Abel. So in my Disney directors program, there was six of us. I was a producer who was directing. We had an actor who was directing. We had an editor who was directing. We had a short form content director who wanted to do television. Forgive me, AD. So we were all coming from other parts of the business and just wanted to focus on directing, which was why the program was so great. I felt very like seen by my group of other directors. Um, I think that producing is really helpful tool because you're the boss. So in a way, you're in charge of when I was producing a television show, I was hiring the writers, I was hiring the directors, I was helping our pilot director hire their production designer and AD and all that stuff. So I both think producing and PAing, which I know are at different levels, are equally valuable because you get to see how a set runs. And when I remember when I worked on my first show, um, I was like, oh, I see that I'm probably don't want to be a grip or a DP, but like that job looks interesting to me. That producer looks interesting to me. Maybe I'm a writer, maybe I'm a director, but like I think when you can be on sets and see how the cookie is being made, kind of, you get a sense of what works and what doesn't and what is interesting you. It kind of gives you like the here are all the options. Now pay attention, and see what you like. So that's my best advice there.
Cool. So maybe
Yeah.
taking a path of production, right? Yeah. Sorry, Abel,
Yes.
you were unmuting. Yeah.
Oh no, sorry. I was just saying thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
Hi,
Juliana,
my question.
did I skip your question?
Yeah, mine was after Lindsay.
I It didn't show up for some reason. Can you send it to me? Can you send it to me privately, please, and I'll get to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it in the chat here, so I'm not sure what happened there, but I'll certainly get to your question. Thanks, Femi. Juliana said, I'm a screenwriter to be based in Florida. I was wondering if you had any words on pitching projects when you're new into the scene.
Hi, Juliana. Yes, every pitch is a sales tool. So I have sold a lot of television shows, and the television shows are very different than what we pitched. I think you want to think of it as like a one act play. You want to be presentational. It should be fun. You should be prepared. And you want to take your audience as you're pitching through sort of tell them a story, tell them a story that they don't want to end. And I think if you can accomplish that, um, you can sell shows, which is exciting.
Cool. Thomas, also a lot of writers here. That's great. Thomas said, I've written a script for a pilot web or TV series. Any advice or direction on how I should go about funding, cameras, etc.?
Yeah, funding is hard. I mean, you can do things for very cheap. I would suggest trying to find some friends to make it with you. If you're just starting out, find a friend who wants to direct, find a friend who wants to DP. I mean, you can shoot things on iPhones with lights. Like, you don't need fancy things to tell a good story. Um, there's a lot of places that you can apply for grants for short film funding. So you can look up those, and there's a lot of stuff out there that you can get money that way. It's competitive, but I always say, like, the first short film I ever made, I had some help, but I also self-funded a lot of it. So um, I think it's worth it to to be scrappy and to also know that the first one out of the gate is probably going to be on you because, it's your first one, which is okay. But I've seen some shorts that have been made for like $0 who are premiering at South by. So you don't need a big budget to make a good story. But
Yeah,
yeah,
interesting.
favor.
Work within the budget that you have,
Work
right?
within your
And
means. Work within your means. Yeah, fancy cameras does not a great web series make, but a good group of people who are trying to tell the same story and have the same work ethic are.
great. Emmanuel said, when you randomly meet someone, form a connection, and this person has a potential to support you, what is the best way to approach keeping in contact with them? Is it LinkedIn, Instagram, email, phone number? How do you go about it?
There is such a one answer to this. So thank you for asking this, Emmanuel. Email only. Do not text people. Like, get their email. Email is professional. I think you can send them a LinkedIn notice. I will say that, like, LinkedIn is not as you can use it. Of course, you should use it, especially if people are on there, but email is best. And if you're like meeting for a coffee and they text you their number, that's fine, but it should always be email. Do not DM them.
Yeah. And I think LinkedIn is good when you don't have their email. So if you're reaching out to
Absolutely.
somebody
LinkedIn
and
is
saying like,
That's
hey,
right.
this was
That's right.
great, but then try to shift it over to email at some point. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Get it off the apps.
Yeah. Perfect. And also just to that, don't expect people to respond on the first email that you send them. People want to help, but they're also busy and things get just lost in their inbox. Don't be afraid after a week to kind of bump it to the top of their inbox and check in, and see how things are going. Yeah. Um, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pronounce your name properly, so I'll say Z. Thank you so much for chatting with us today. I'm fascinated by how many different tracks you've worked in. How do you think your directing and producing experience inform each other? And how do you think your film or TV and other theater experience help each other?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that they all like service each other. And so when I'm producing, I'm hiring the directors and then I'm on set with the directors supporting them. So now as a director, I know what it's like to get feedback from producers because I've been them. I remember the first time I ever have been on set and I've been giving my directors notes. And then I remember the first time I got a note from my producer and I like had this instinct to be like, but instead I was like, nope, you used to be that person. Everyone's on the same team trying to make something great, taking the feedback. So I think, a lot of the times they advise for directors to take acting go to an acting program and take an acting class. And that's just so you can understand how to step in other people's shoes. So I think that they kind of all feed into each other. And for film and TV, theater is very fast. And so I think that's really helped me with television. Although we'll see, I'm doing my first episode on Friday, so I'll get back to you. But theater is quite fast. And a little bit more like TV than film is. But also a play is one thing and a film is one thing. So they kind of have, I think, helped inform each other through a weird cycle.
Good advice. Just understanding how other people work within the industry, right?
Yes.
And how to manage them and support them and understand their angle. Chris says, did your post-production work on Jennifer's body and its horror effects influence the fangs on the love interest at the end of the party?
Now, Chris did his homework here. This is a really good example, everybody. I feel very seen, Chris. Thank you. Um, I was didn't do post-production work on Jennifer's Body. I was working at the studio that we made it, so I got to go to the premiere and I was obsessed with it. I my Chris is referring to my short film, the one at Tribeca that has a vampire theme. And that's a good question. Maybe, yeah. I love Jennifer's Body. I wish I had made it. I think vampire stuff is cool. Um, so maybe you're calling me in on something, Chris, I didn't even know. So yes, I'll say yes.
Cool.
And
Chris
thanks
also
for watching the film.
Yeah, Chris, also thanks for joining us here, part of our program as well. Um, all right, another question from Abel. I've just begun the festival run for a student short film I wrote and directed. From your experience, what makes someone's short film translate into real opportunities in TV or longer form work?
Yeah, congratulations. It's exciting. I think that depending upon the first short film I made, I did not feel like I think it was it was what it was. I really was interested in music videos, so I wanted to make something that didn't really need to translate into something else. My second one, I think, is a feature, and that's why I wanted to make it. So I think you can't really know. You have to do your best, make something that you believe in. Um, and then if it resonates with people, the best part about film festivals is that they know how to find you. So you're there with them, they can watch it, they'll come up to you. And then, after you do your festival circuit, figure out a way to put it online and on your portfolio. I think showing it was really important to me. I was producing a lot of material that I wouldn't necessarily have wanted to direct. So for me, I made my film so I could show people the kind of things I wanted to be directing because everyone assumed I wanted to do something else because that's what I'd been working in. So I do think also shorts are a really good way to be like, this is me, and let people know who you are quite quickly. So yeah.
Great. Thank you. Alice said, thank you so much for sharing advice. I've heard that portfolios are very important in creative industries. How can you elaborate on how to create a standout portfolio? And I have actually, Alice, I've attached for you as well our link for tomorrow because we have a session at the same time specifically on portfolio development. So maybe we can get a little deeper there. But Kate, any kind of brief advice on portfolios?
Yeah, Alice, awesome question. I think my go to this class event, and then my best advice is be clear and simple on your portfolio. I see sometimes a lot of portfolios that have like, I'm a producer, editor, actor, director, writer, and like it's just that's very confusing. So be clear about who you are and what you want to do, which means like put your portfolio online when you're ready. You don't have to put it up the second you decide you want to do anything. Maybe you do it after you have a short film that you want people to see. So just be thoughtful about what you want and what you want people to see, and it should be clear and concise.
Great. We'll get through probably about three more questions, given the time, because we're going to have a stop at 15 minutes after. But I do want to let you know for all of you that didn't get a chance to get your question answered. I'll leave our LinkedIn's afterwards. You can definitely message me on LinkedIn or message Kate and hopefully receive kind of an answer to your burning questions there. Naya said, thank you so much for the advice. What was the biggest adjustment you had to make in switching from producer to director?
Yeah, great question, Naya. I think I had to like do less in a way. I mean, not that's not true. producing is kind of taking care of a lot of people at once. And my job as a director is to take care of the actors and also create the vision of what I'm seeing. So it's more creative, a little less logistical, although both things kind of feed into each other. But adjustment wise, like I actually have to force myself to not produce because I can do it in my sleep. So I really look for to hire other producers who will let me, who like have my brain so I don't have to do it because I will do it if someone doesn't step up. So it's work for me to be like, Kate, don't do that. Just focus on directing. It's my biggest cross to bear.
Yeah, trying to do other people's jobs right,
Yeah,
and
you
that's
don't
probably
need
because
to,
you're good at it, right? So you're like, I
yeah,
know how to do this
but
a little bit better.
totally.
Femi said, as someone who started in content creation and discovered a love for videography, what are some practical ways I can explore producing or directing to see if it's the right fit for me? Also, as a marketing graduate interested in entertainment, what roles or entry points would you recommend to break into companies like Hulu?
Okay, I'll answer your second part first. I think that internships are great, internships and PA work. I kind of feel like there's three things to do to break into Hollywood. One, I think it's easier to intern a lot of places. I think you can probably PA or you can work at an agency. Those are really good ways to kind of see the lay of the land. I did the PA route. I have a lot of friends who went through the agency route. I have a lot of friends who grew up in LA who did summer internships, and that's how they got their first job. So those are kind of the three places. And as far as practical ways to explore producing or directing, the thing that I really want you guys to know is that you are producers and directors and editors already. You have a phone in your pocket and you have friends and you have a passion. So a lot of people want permission to do these things, and I'm giving it to you guys. You guys have my permission. Go and shoot something in your backyard tomorrow. Really, what it's all about, and Femi, this is such a fantastic question because I think everyone has it, is the best way I learned is no one gave me a job. I said, I want to do this and I'm going to go find a way and I'm going to go put my team together. So it's really just about having the passion for it and then making it happen. And so I did that, as you heard from my story about directing a musical for the first time. I did that about directing a short film. No one said, hey, Kate, you know what would be great for you to do? No one's going to do that. So it's really up to you. And you, I think, have the tools. The biggest thing that gets into people's way is they feel like they need a stamp of approval from somebody else, and you do not. Go out there and make great stuff and learn from it and get better at it. And that is the best advice I can give you. It's the whole reason why I'm here today.
That
And
was
I'm
excellent.
excited for you.
I felt like a little chill down my spine when you said you have my permission. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go shoot something tomorrow. No,
Go
but
shoot something.
yeah, no, it's true that we wait for the moment, for the thing, for the item, for the
You
for the
are the
equipment, for
moment,
the
everyone on the
funding, right? Just do
Zoom.
it. Yeah, yeah,
Yes. And I
100%.
can't wait to see all the brilliant things you guys are going to make. It's exciting. You're the next gen, so make me proud.
I also wanted to just add one little thing onto you mentioned a couple of different ways to enter the industry, and I want everybody here to remember that you don't always need to enter through the front door. There's a lot of different ways into the house. One of the stories I love of another coach of ours, Justin, is that he had difficulty getting a PA role, so he went and worked as a tour guide for Warner Brothers, which was a much easier job to get, an hourly job, in Hollywood, and then met all the people and met HR and then kept telling them I want a PA job, and got a PA job and is now working as an executive for Warner Brothers. So I think there's, you know, um, other ways in the house. You don't have to go through only the one route, right? Just find a way to work with people and then build connections from there. That's why sometimes, taking an internship or something that is not necessarily the thing you want to do in that moment is fine because you're going to meet people and you're going to build relationships and your career will be long and not, just that 3 months. And then we'll go to our last question that we have time for now. I'm sorry we couldn't get to everything. There were so many good questions here today. Danilo, also in our program. Thanks, Danilo, for joining us here. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. My name is Danilo, and I'm a film major based in New York. I face problems with reaching out to people. What advice would you give to improve it? A lot of times they don't respond back. When is the proper time to follow up to not be annoying and at the same time make sure that you were seen?
Totally. Hi, Danny Lowe. Great question. I think if you meet with somebody, I'll just tell you what I do and then you can adjust it for you. Um, I kind of have a 24-hour policy. So if I meet with someone every morning, I think to myself, like, who did I meet with yesterday? Did someone do something nice for me? Did someone help me? And I'll send a text or an email based off of our relationship saying thank you. So I think if you meet with someone for lunch, by the end of the next day, send them a nice email saying, thank you so much. It was so great to meet with you. I would love to keep in touch. I appreciate your time. And not all people are going to respond to that, and that's okay. But if, like, in 3 months they never got back to you, but you have a short film you want to share them, you can respond to that same thread. They'll see that they didn't respond to you, and you can say, hi, it's me just checking in. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed our conversation a couple months ago. I ended up directing my first film. I would love to share it with you. Here's a link. If you have any time in the next few months, would love to take you to a coffee. It's just keep it very simple and light and understand that not everyone's going to respond, but you will when you're in that position. So it's good learning from both ends. All of you guys are going to be leading these Zooms someday and going to be having a lot of people asking for your support. So remember to do right by them.
Absolutely. And I think it just two additional things to add there is one, don't necessarily, spend your time and effort trying to reach out and connect with people who you haven't met. Start with the people that you have a relationship with, that you've met, that you've had some form of connection with, because people don't really respond to cold messages as much, right? You need an incident or an event like this to be like, hey, thanks for the chat. Like, I really appreciated that. And also I have a question. And then secondly is don't leave things without a question or without something to respond to. If there's nothing to respond to, people often don't respond, right? If you're like, hi, I'm Ben, you're like, okay. You need to kind of add a question in there or something. And if you're reaching out to somebody for the first time, don't um don't wait for your ask because people are a little bit hesitant if you're like, hey, they're like, oh God, what's coming? What's the ask here? What do you need from me? It's better to just put it, I don't know how if you feel the same way, Kate, but it's better just to put it out there and say, hey, it was really nice to meet you. Thank you so much for your time. I also, was wondering if we could have a 5-minute coffee chat at some point. I loved, your advice and I'd love to speak with you again. Just put it out there so they can process and respond properly instead of, feeling like they're being kind of dragged along. Yeah.
Yes, could not agree more.
Great. Wonderful. Well, I am posting both of our LinkedIn, here. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with Kate. You can send me a message anytime. I respond to all my messages. I'm sure Kate will be very busy over the next month, so don't necessarily expect a quick response from her. I'll speak for, for you, Kate.
You're more than welcome to message me. I wrap on 420, so I will be looking at on my LinkedIn on 421. So if you want to mark that down, that's a great day to reach out. But feel free to. I just am going to be in the production lane.
Perfect. Wonderful. And also I've posted our website link again. Please apply if you're interested in being part of the program. So you can learn from wonderful people like Kate and also, get your career started. But Kate, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This was such a wonderful chat and one of the best I've had. I mean, I really loved your advice and I think that really helpful for everyone here. So I really appreciate your time. And this was wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. It was so lovely to see your faces, and thank you for these very smart questions. I appreciate you all, and good luck.
Bye. Bye,
Thank you, Kate.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Bye. Bye, Femi. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Emmy. Sorry I couldn't get to all questions, everybody. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.